Okay, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining our bi-weekly Subspace Developer Stand-Up. Serge, if you would like to start us off, please.
Sure. So I created this week a PR. It was focused on, let me open my notes 1 second. Yeah, on integration of parachains. So previously I only had like a single source chain, which was Kusama. And this PR will include also parachains, like current live parachains on Kusama. And also I started introducing multiple accounts on Relayer. So before we had only one account which was signing transactions, and now we can derive multiple accounts. And next step, I will create transactions to delegate, to basically create proxy accounts so they can spend on behalf of our basic like Alice account. And yeah, PR I mentioned first was is currently in review, and this accounts feature is currently in another branch I'm currently working on. And yeah, today I was blocked with this issue running local node because of CUDA, but yeah, after Nazar help, I'm unblocked. Thanks for that. And also I plan, if all goes well with PRs, I will start updating pilot feeds based on our discussion yesterday. I guess that's it.
Cool. Any questions for Serge? Okay, thanks, Serge. Looking forward to getting the full details on that in the Relayer call tomorrow.
Sure.
Okay, Ozgun, you're up next.
All right. So after Monday, our meeting, we have solved the verification bugs with Nazar, and then I prepared a PR on GPU-CPU plotter. Now it works from end to end, and it's merged into main. And today and yesterday, I was working hard for Rust exercises to get more comfortable, especially grabbing all the details for fundamentals, especially. And also after that, there were some missing documentations. I finished them, and these are present in our Notion. So if we are to write an article, I'm fully prepared for that, both on mathematical background and code background. And that's all for me.
And what are you going to be working on next, Ozgun?
What I have on my mind is, if you see appropriate, I can start on Substrate, learning Substrate. Or you have mentioned the turning farmer binary into library. I can work on that. Other than that, I don't have any other plans. So it's up to you.
Cool. Nazar, have you had a chance to work out a ticket for that or talk to Ozgun about the bin-to-lib?
I think it will be a little bit later. The kind of changes I was doing recently, it would conflict with that significantly. So I think it will be like maybe next week.
Okay. Okay. In that case, Ozgun, it's probably going to be best for you to start the GPU article. How long do you think it'll take you to do that?
Depends on how much detail we are going to dive into the article, but I don't think it will be more than two to 3 days at worst case, even though if we are diving into full details.
Okay. Okay, let's do that. And hopefully by the time that article is done, we'll be able to work on the bin-to-lib conversion. And then after that's done, then we can start with the Substrate Runtime Developer Academy and getting more into Substrate. We do have a lot. I suspect we might have more work to do on the farmer side. So the goal is to gradually transition you. Like so I don't know if it's going to be a day or a month, that you'll spend with the farmer, but it's going to be somewhere in between there. And then once we feel like the farmer is better, then we'll move you into Substrate directly. And that's going to take like a week, maybe 2 weeks to even get you ready to do that.
Yeah.
So let's hold off on that a little bit and just focus on the GPU article. So you and I need to sync up one-on-one on that. So just hit me up in Discord and after this, and we'll try to find a time soon to do that so we can discuss the scope of that.
Okay.
Cool. Any questions for Ozgun? Great. Thanks, Ozgun. All right, Justin, you're up next.
Yeah, so nothing too crazy. I've been working on mostly business stuff over the past couple days. But I been working on and going to be completing here after this meeting a full audit of the Discord permissions, just because there was a slight little mishap with Jeremiah the other day on bringing in a new user. So we just want to make sure that that's secure, that people don't have access to channels they shouldn't be seeing, etc. Beyond that, the next couple days, I'm going to be focused on getting some of the issues and the guides written for the desktop farmer that we discussed in the last meeting, and getting some of those issues like formally submitted into GitHub and some previous ones that I have open, updated, and everything. And then beyond that, you know, on the development side of things, I've just been trying to get familiar with Rust and been kind of working through I think it's called the Gentle Introduction to Rust, to try and get a little bit more familiar so I can be a little bit more useful to you guys on the developmental side of things.
Okay, any questions for Justin? Okay, thanks, Justin. All right.
Don't have a question, but I have a comment. I found a great introduction called Rust Links. Maybe Nazar will approve that. I don't know, but it's both beginner and intermediate level. Maybe that will help you, Justin. I don't know.
Yeah, please send it to me.
Yeah, we'll do.
Awesome, thank you.
So Justin, sorry, you froze there for a minute for me, but did you say that you're trying to get more into Rust right now?
Yes, that's just kind of like as time permits, you know, on the side.
No, I mean, just from my experience with languages, I would, if you've already got some familiarity with JavaScript or TypeScript, I would strongly suggest trying to master that language first before jumping into something like Rust. But I mean, that's just the way that, from my perspective, it's like it's really good to master one language before trying to master like a hard language like Rust. I don't know if anybody else, or maybe Nazar, if you have any thoughts on that. We use, you know, JavaScript and TypeScript really heavily in our ecosystem too, and that might be more approachable for you, especially with the front end side of things, to start contributing.
I think it's really personal. In some sense, Rust is difficult. In some, it's easier than others. Just everyone has their own way to learn.
Right.
But I like you mentioned, I'm a little more familiar with like the baseline JavaScript, so I think it would be beneficial to kind of master a little bit more expertise on that side of things.
Okay. Any other comments for Justin? All right, Nazar, you're up next.
Yeah, I've been mostly preparing my foundation for the plotting of useful data on the farmer side. So I was working on, first I was debugging and like analyzing different things in the background, like as I usually do, and I found the bug in the restoring archiver state. Basically, we had that last archived block information that we can start from, but we didn't account that some blocks can be actually produced after that already, and they're already in the chain, and there will be no event when we restart. So you kind of need to go from there and to the head of the chain and like re-archive everything to make sure the state is consistent. So that was a fix for that. And then I was refactoring the Spartan codec that we kind of have modified with the new library into a separate crate. The crate is called Subspace codec because it will be used for Subspace in the future. And they restructure somewhat the CUDA feature use and other things and made sure that everything uses it. And that is where and the API is changed slightly closer to what Subspace will use. So that's one step. The other step was to expose some of the constants we were using for archiving into the runtime, so that the farmer can connect to RPC and query all of those parameters and make sure they are the same as the chain it's connected to. And I was also doing some other refactoring locally towards the same goal, but I don't have like an actual archiving logic on the farmer yet. This is like the directly next step.
Cool. Any questions or comments from the group for Nazar? Cool. Well, we're really looking forward.
Sorry, I have a delivery. I need to step back for a few minutes.
Okay. Okay, Leo, you're up next.
Yeah, after Monday, I was working to close this pending desktop farmer task for the blog authoring and the peers information. I have these pull requests to make today after this call, I think. And part of that, I was working with the Subspace review Nazar made, and I have updated of all the comments and send a couple of commits, like cleaning the project and make everything like more simpler. And I think that it's much clearer right now. And I have found a couple of bugs actually while I was reviewing these Nazar comments. So thanks for that.
That's Subspace JS you're talking about,
yeah,
Leo?
Subspace. And after that, I have been working in the Relayer app. I have created a couple of components while I was waiting for some Serge updates. And yesterday, I got all these Serge updates. I have some similar problems with the CUDA driver, but in Ubuntu, I have updated to the latest version, and it was working actually right now. So for today, I will be working in that Relayer app, and yeah, I think that's all for me. Because for the Subspace JS with the version 14 metadata, I want to close this other one that is in review, because there are a lot of changes, and if I work right now, I will have this problem that I will have, like, I don't know, 17 file changes, and the review will be harder. So after closing that, I will be working in the metadata version 14 also.
And that's for Subspace JS or for Polkadot.js?
For Subspace.
Okay. Do you think you'll be able to get to anything with Polkadot.js this week?
With Polkadot apps?
Sorry, yeah, Polkadot apps. That's what I meant.
There are a couple of things in there. Yeah. See, yeah, I think that if I have this Subspace closed, I can have some time to work with that.
Okay. It's just that with Nazar, like if he gets V1 ready, maybe by this weekend, that's kind of the goal. Then at that point, we're going to be ready to submit a new PR to parity on Polkadot.js apps, and we're going to need to make sure that that's caught up with all the new changes in Subspace V1. So after we get Subspace JS caught up and mock up our basic version of the relayer, that would be the next priority to get caught up, and then we just have to kind of balance these out over time with the updates. But I'm glad you're getting caught up on everything.
Let me work with the relayer. I want to have something working between today and tomorrow, and between tomorrow and Friday, I can focus in the Polkadot apps and have a new PR in there. There are several things that are really simpler, like the logos and a couple of things that are really simpler. And yeah, I think that for Friday we can check something in the.
Okay, awesome. Any questions or comments for Leo from the group? Okay, thanks for the update, Leo. All right, on my side, so I already talked to you guys about Liu Chang. I've been working on a lot of different things on the business side with the website and preparing for the fundraising, financial compliance. Regarding the engineering, the main thing I have been doing is working on the plan for the offsite, or the engineering offsite in Spain. And that is mostly in my head right now. I'm trying to capture that. But the working idea is day one is going to focus on getting everybody up to speed and making sure that we have a shared understanding of the way the protocol actually works at the consensus layer and the distributed storage layer, which should basically have all been implemented by that point, or most of it having been implemented by that point. We can talk about this, Nazar, right? We can talk about the offsite in the recording. I think that's okay. And then the other part is going to be the couple key topics I think we need to discuss is going to be this storage API, or what we're calling pallet feeds, or pallet feeds is like a part of the storage API, but I think we need to have a broader discussion about what the developer experience for puts and to some extent gets is going to look like. Basically, we've got like dumb puts where we just add data to the blockchain and it's not cached anywhere in the state. We've got these more sophisticated puts, which is pallet feeds, that right now is not verified, but it could be verified with like a signature. Maybe it could be verified with some logic. Like if we think about these block feeds as a like a light client verification. So basically now we've got a smart contract in there. And then we're going to be adding smart contracts and decoupled execution to the project in the next few months. And so there's going to be some relationship between, like, we've got like a nice separation of concerns now between storage and computation, or at least archival storage and computation and persistent state. And so we've got to figure out like how those two are going to interact. And then we've also got the ability to basically archive state. So this is like what Ethereum and some other like Polkadot have been talking about with like state rent, where you could basically like collapse some state into like a Merkle root from the runtime storage perspective. And in our case, we've got that still, you know, we snapshotted it, we've got it retained somewhere in the history, and then we could resurrect that state later, like when we need to do some logic on that contract. So there's like, it's kind of a different paradigm here that we're thinking about in terms of how the storage and the computation work. We've mainly been thinking about this from the storage side, and we do need to more clearly define what that's going to look like. But we've also got a computation side this as well, which we're going to start integrating in the near future. So that's a big thing. This storage API discussion that we're going to have. How the relayer is going to convert into a bridge, and what is our sort of more generic bridging architecture or our interoperability architecture. So right now we have a trusted relayer. We're trying to move that to a more trustless relayer, or like a more decentralized relayer. Then we'd like to maybe make that into a parathread to talk to Kusama, and then maybe eventually like a full-on like parachain. So that's another thing that we're going to discuss. So this is a lot of more like implementation stuff than it is like theoretical research stuff, right? This is just kind of like, how do we want to do it versus like, is it possible? So that's another thing. This is probably going to be sort of like day 2 to some extent, a lot of this discussion. Day 3, I'm thinking, is going to be more talking about the decoupled execution. We're getting very close to starting to implement that. We don't have specifications. We have some very raw design documents for that, or diagrams for that, but we don't have a lot. So this is something that I'm going to try to work on before we get into the offsite, but we might just be going through it from scratch for the first time with everybody. We'll see. This might be something that Li Cheng will be working on himself. But that's, you know, that's a big next step that we need to figure out how we're going to implement this. And then on day 4, we're probably going to have some miscellaneous topics, but we're also going to have a discussion about how we're going to be transitioning from this like closed sort of corporate team that we have right now into this more public, open source, collaborative development workflow, where we can hopefully have less meetings like this, do more work in GitHub, have like you know, tickets and milestones tracked in GitHub, be able to get contributions from open source developers more easily, get bugs and issues filed more easily, like track basically everything in GitHub. That's kind of what we want to move towards. And like an SIP, like Subspace Improvement Proposal process, we're probably gonna have like a research forum site, like a discourse server, where we have like discussion on upgrades to the protocol, and then like a formal process for doing the upgrades and these like SIPs, and the SIPs would then tie back into like the roadmap for GitHub or the tickets and the issues on GitHub. Like that's like when you look at how like Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other protocols actually work in this open source environment, that they have all of that structure. So we're going to need to incorporate that structure into our workflow and start the process of transitioning into that, so that by the time we go into mainnet launch and we have the foundation, that's kind of how the foundation is really operating in terms of a development cycle. So yeah, I'm just trying to paint the picture for you guys. I put out a comment in the group chat and Discord about the offsite to get people's questions and feedback and ideas on what you want to discuss. Has everybody had a chance to do that? Has everybody kind of said their piece there? I know you're not in that, Justin. Just that doesn't apply to you. So good. I did see comments from everybody. So everybody's happy. I want to make sure that we're not just like designing this in a vacuum of what we're going to talk about, and then we get out of the offsite and everybody's like, oh well, I really wish we would have talked about this because like I still don't understand this, or this was like a big question for me. So if you've got a concern or question, please put it in there, and we can make sure to add time for it. Any thoughts on that right now? We've got a little bit of time to discuss this.
I was just curious if they're gonna be recorded again, like last time, since that way I can kind of keep up as best I can.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll be able to attend. It's it's just going to be expected for the engineering team, but you're certainly welcome to be in there, Justin. It's going to be 4 days, so it's going to be a lot, but it's going to be maybe less, like just 8 hours each 4 days versus like 9 or 10 hours like it was last time. We're going to try to have more frequent breaks. But yeah, it's all going to be recorded. Courtney's going to be taking care of that.
Sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts on the engineering offsite? Any comments, questions? Nope, everybody's happy. Just want to get out of the meeting as quickly as possible. Okay, I understand.